My son's friend gave me an unexpected thrill. But then what happened? It all started with a simple act of kindness. Jake, my son's best friend, had been coming over to our house for years. He was like family, always hanging out with my son in the basement, playing video games and eating pizza. I had never thought of him in any other way than as a kid, but that all changed one evening. I remember it so clearly. It was late, and my husband was working late on a project, and my son and Jake were downstairs playing. I decided to relax with a glass of wine in the living room. The moment Jake walked in to grab a drink from the kitchen, I caught a glimpse of him grown up. Different somehow. He was no longer the scrawny teenager I had seen for years. His broad shoulders, the hint of stubble on his chin, and those deep eyes made me pause. A spark of attraction hit me, and I felt my heart race. I quickly dismissed the thought, feeling guilty for even entertaining it. He was my son's friend, for crying out loud. It felt wrong, but the more I tried to push it aside, the stronger the pull became. I started finding excuses to have him over. At first, it was innocent, just casual conversations. But soon, it was more. My thoughts drifted toward him when I least expected it, and I couldn't ignore the connection that seemed to be forming between us. The guilt gnawed at me every day, but there was also an undeniable thrill that I hadn't felt in years. I began to notice how Jake would linger, sitting a little closer to me on the couch, laughing a bit too long at my jokes. At first, I didn't let myself believe it, but the signs were there. The tension was building. And then, one evening, it happened. He kissed me. It was soft at first, a fleeting touch of lips, but the intensity in that moment sent waves of desire through my body. I pulled back immediately, my heart pounding in my chest. "Jake, we can't. This is wrong," I said, barely above a whisper. But he didn't back off. He looked at me with a mix of desire and understanding, and in that moment, I realized I didn't want him to stop. We kept it a secret at first. Each stolen kiss felt like a dangerous adventure. The guilt was overwhelming, but the passion was intoxicating. I told myself it was just a fling, that I would stop before things went too far. But every time Jake touched me, I was reminded of how distant I had grown from my own husband. He had been so focused on work, leaving me to feel neglected and alone. Soon, the affair escalated. We found ourselves sneaking around, texting when my husband was away, meeting at the park for stolen moments of intimacy. The excitement of the secrecy only deepened the connection. But as the days passed, the weight of the lie began to crush me. I was hiding this enormous secret, and it was destroying me inside. One day, my son came home early from school. The look on his face when he saw Jake's jacket on the chair in our living room made my stomach drop. He didn't say anything at first, but his silence was deafening. That night, after dinner, he confronted me. The hurt in his eyes was more than I could bear. "Mom, what's going on?" he asked, his voice shaking. I couldn't deny it anymore. I told him everything, how I had fallen for Jake, how confused I was, and how much I regretted hurting him. The shame was unbearable. I didn't know what would happen next. Would he hate me forever? Would my marriage survive? Jake eventually stopped coming around, and my husband started noticing the distance between us. The emotional fallout was worse than I could have imagined. I lost the trust of my son, my husband, and ultimately, I lost myself. The affair was over, but the damage was done. Attraction is often considered an unpredictable force, one that can strike when least expected, often in the most inappropriate circumstances. For those involved in long-term relationships or marriages, the concept of attraction may seem like a distant memory, something that fades over time as familiarity sets in. This is especially true when the attraction comes from someone outside the established romantic connection, someone considered off limits or outside the boundaries of what is socially acceptable. This is where the complication begins, and the emotional turmoil often starts. In the context of a family dynamic, the unexpected attraction can be even more jarring. Imagine for a moment that you have a close family friend, a young person who's grown up around your children. You've watched them grow, their adolescent awkwardness evolving into a more confident, mature version of themselves. Initially, they are nothing more than a child's friend, someone you've known for years, and your interactions with them have always been in a familiar, almost parental sense. However, as time passes, you begin to notice subtle changes, perhaps in the way they carry themselves or the way they look at you. These small shifts might go unnoticed at first, but over time, the attraction can catch you completely off guard. It is in these moments that the confusion sets in. You never intended for anything like this to happen. They were just a kid, someone your own children grew up with. You may feel a sense of shame, embarrassment, or guilt at the thought of this shift in perspective. You might find yourself denying these feelings, telling yourself that this is just a fleeting moment, that it's nothing worth exploring. But that attraction, however brief, ignites something deeper in emotional conflict that you cannot easily dismiss. The complexity arises from the fact that this attraction is not born from a place of malice or intentional desire. Instead, it emerges out of the depths of a complex emotional landscape. In many cases, it's triggered by a sense of emotional deprivation within the established relationship. Perhaps the person feels overlooked, unappreciated, or emotionally distant from their spouse or partner. When someone from the outside enters the picture, someone youthful, energetic, and seemingly full of life, there is a natural draw, a spark that feels unfamiliar yet exciting. The attention they receive from this person may seem innocent at first, but it slowly starts to feed a longing that has been unaddressed for a long time. This sudden attraction brings with it a surge of emotions that are difficult to navigate. On one hand, there's the guilt of being attracted to someone outside of the marriage or long-term relationship. On the other, there's the allure of a connection that feels fresh, spontaneous, and perhaps even more fulfilling in comparison to the growing emotional detachment from their partner. This emotional tug-of-war becomes even more intense when the attraction begins to develop into something more than just passing thoughts. The deeper it goes, the more difficult it becomes to rationalize or justify the feelings. The attraction can take on many forms, sometimes subtle, sometimes overt. Perhaps it's a lingering glance or an accidental touch that lingers a bit too long. These moments are charged with a new kind of energy, a new type of chemistry that had not been present before. What was once seen as innocent and platonic is now layered with an undeniable undercurrent of desire. Even if the attraction isn't acted upon immediately, the emotional impact of these fleeting moments can create ripples that slowly chip away at the foundation of the individual's emotional stability. As the attraction grows, the internal struggle intensifies. It becomes harder to distinguish what is real and what is just a fantasy, and this blurring of lines can lead to decisions that are both reckless and regretful. In some cases, the attraction may stay on the mental plane, never venturing into physical territory, but in other cases, it can manifest in impulsive actions that lead to a breach of trust. This process is not necessarily intentional. It's often driven by an emotional void that the individual seeks to fill, even if it means crossing boundaries they never thought they would. This unforeseen attraction, born from a fleeting moment, often evolves into something much larger and more complicated. What may have started as a simple spark can grow into a raging fire, one that threatens the very core of existing relationships. As the individual grapples with their feelings, they are faced with the moral dilemma of whether to act on their desires or bury them deep within, potentially causing further emotional turmoil. This attraction becomes the catalyst for a series of events that can change the course of relationships, creating a deep sense of inner conflict that is difficult to escape from once it takes root. The moment a person finds themselves drawn to someone outside their committed relationship, they are often met with a powerful internal struggle. The conflicting emotions that arise can be overwhelming, leading to a deep sense of confusion, guilt, and self-doubt. On one hand, there is the undeniable attraction, a pull that feels natural and real, stirring emotions that were either long forgotten or never fully acknowledged. On the other hand, there is the weight of the commitment made to a spouse or partner, a vow to remain loyal, trustworthy, and faithful. These competing feelings create a psychological battle that can be emotionally exhausting and mentally taxing, leaving the person caught between two worlds, the one they know and the one they are tempted to explore. Guilt is often the first emotion that surfaces in this internal conflict. A person may immediately recognize that they are betraying the trust of their partner, and the realization of this breach can provoke feelings of shame and remorse. Guilt, however, is not a simple emotion. It is layered and multifaceted. The person may feel guilty for even allowing the attraction to develop in the first place, questioning their own morality and values. They may berate themselves for entertaining the thought of crossing a line they swore never to cross. At the same time, there is the guilt of keeping the attraction a secret, which only adds to the emotional burden. Each moment spent hiding the truth compounds the sense of dishonesty, creating a cycle of self-recrimination that can spiral into self-loathing. As the internal struggle continues, the individual often finds themselves caught in a constant tug of war between their loyalty to their partner and the emotional or physical desires they are experiencing. This can lead to moments of intense confusion, where the person may wonder whether their feelings for the other individual are truly significant, or if they are merely a temporary distraction from the deeper issues within their relationship. They may question their own feelings, wondering if the attraction is a reflection of a larger emotional void that needs to be filled, or if it is simply a fleeting desire that will eventually fade. But the more they try to suppress these feelings, the stronger they seem to grow, making it harder to deny that something has shifted within them. This emotional turmoil can also lead to a sense of isolation. The person may find it difficult to talk about their feelings with anyone, including their partner, for fear of judgment, rejection, or the destruction of the relationship. The secrecy and shame create a barrier that makes them feel increasingly disconnected from their partner and those around them. The fear of being caught, or of the truth coming to light, only amplifies the emotional pressure, making it harder to function normally in day-to-day life. The once clear boundaries between right and wrong become blurred, and the individual may start to rationalize their actions, convincing themselves that they deserve this moment of escape, or that their partner is somehow responsible for the emotional void they are experiencing. However, the deeper they delve into this internal struggle, the more they begin to understand the complexity of their emotions. It is not just the attraction to the other person that is causing the turmoil, it is the recognition of their unmet emotional needs. The feelings of longing, desire, and connection to someone outside the relationship often stem from feelings of neglect or dissatisfaction that have built up over time. In many cases, the attraction is not so much about the other person, but about the emotional void that exists within the individual's current relationship. This realization can add another layer of guilt, as they begin to understand that their actions are a reflection of dissatisfaction within the relationship, rather than just a random, uncontrollable impulse. As the internal conflict rages on, the guilt continues to intensify. The person may find themselves questioning their worth as a partner, wondering if they have failed in some way to meet their own needs or the needs of their spouse. They may also feel deep regret for allowing the situation to escalate, for allowing themselves to be swept away by emotions they know are destructive. At times, this guilt may lead to feelings of worthlessness, as they struggle with the fact that their emotional disconnection from their partner has led them down a path of infidelity. The weight of this guilt can feel suffocating, preventing them from fully engaging in their current relationship or moving forward with the person they are attracted to. This period of emotional turmoil can last for weeks, months, or even longer, as the person wrestles with their feelings and tries to find a way to resolve the inner conflict. Whether they choose to confess their feelings to their partner or bury them deep inside, the guilt remains a constant presence, a reminder of the emotional cost of the attraction. And even if the affair or emotional connection is never acted upon, the guilt often lingers, serving as a painful reminder of the complex emotional landscape that infidelity often creates. Infidelity, whether emotional or physical, often thrives in the shadows, hidden away from the world and cloaked in secrecy. Once the initial attraction is recognized and the person has crossed the threshold of guilt and desire, a hidden affair often begins. This period is marked by the thrill of secrecy, a forbidden connection that provides an emotional escape from the mundane or unfulfilling aspects of the person's established relationship. In these moments, secrecy becomes the glue that binds the two individuals together, creating a sense of intimacy that is rooted not in the openness or transparency of a healthy relationship, but in the excitement of keeping something hidden. The very act of sneaking around, exchanging stolen glances, and keeping their connection under wraps brings a level of intensity and forbidden allure that heightens the attraction. This clandestine nature of the affair intensifies the emotions involved. Every secret meeting, every hidden message, every stolen touch becomes more exhilarating as it reinforces the notion of something that is off limits or forbidden. This added layer of danger can make the affair feel like an illicit romance, where the emotional connection is heightened by the tension of secrecy. For the person involved, the thrill of keeping something hidden from their spouse, family, or friends may trigger an adrenaline rush, making the affair seem all the more exciting and worth pursuing. The secrecy offers a sense of control and power, something that is missing in their primary relationship, where openness and vulnerability may have begun to wane. The secrecy also leads to the creation of a carefully constructed double life. The person becomes adept at compartmentalizing their emotional and physical worlds. On the surface, they continue to fulfill their roles as a partner, a parent, or a friend, presenting a facade of normalcy. But beneath that exterior, there's a growing web of lies, half-truths, and omissions. The person finds themselves keeping track of details to avoid slipping up. When to send a text, how long they can stay on the phone without raising suspicion, and what to say when asked where they've been or who they've been with. The emotional cost of maintaining this hidden life can be enormous. The effort required to keep up appearances and maintain secrecy slowly erodes the person's emotional energy, leaving them exhausted and mentally drained. As the affair progresses, the emotional stakes grow higher. Each encounter, whether physical or just emotional, creates a deeper attachment between the two people involved. The secrecy of the affair, rather than diminishing the intensity, often strengthens the bond. The emotional connection becomes more complicated, more layered, and harder to untangle. The person may begin to justify their actions by telling themselves that they are not truly harming anyone, that their spouse or partner doesn't understand them the way the person they're having the affair with does. These rationalizations often serve as a coping mechanism to deal with the emotional strain caused by the duplicity of living a double life. The connection with the person on the outside is often seen as pure, untainted by the responsibilities and the day-to-day routine of a long-term relationship, which can feel suffocating in comparison.